Viewer voice messages, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to get caught up on the viewer voice messages before the game Sunday, because I'm sure conversation will change or whatever. Last time I had to re-upload because there was an email. So when y'all submit, you can submit your name, your username, your email, whatever, and emails can't be shown on screen. It's on YouTube's terms of whatever. So we are going to put the store up on the backdrop, but let's go ahead and get into it. The first one is Who Dat Matt. Who Dat Matt kicking us off here.
What's up, James? It's Matt from Tennessee.
All right.
Originally from Metairie, but I'm up here now.
Nice. Shout out Nashville. I've been in Nashville a couple of times. Love it. Nashville's awesome. So really cool place. A lot of fun. Big ups. Also big ups Smyrna, right outside of Nashville.
First off, you are the best in the biz. You already know what it is. Face of the franchise. The content you're creating is just leaps and bounds. Ahead of everybody else. NOF, whatever, man. Just what you're doing is so much better than. I subscribe to all the Saints podcasts, and it's like not even close, man. It's not even close. Your stuff is high level. Anyways.
Hold on, Matt. What do you mean? Anyways, let's talk more about me. You could have just ended the video right there. You could have ended the call right there, and it would have been the call of the year, probably. It's potentially the call of the millennium, the call of it's a generational call. You hit it out of the park. We're on a different level here. We're doing something that no one else is doing, and we do it every single day, multiple times a day. And I love being me, and I love being the face of the franchise, and I love everyone that supports the channel. It's an amazing thing. And we're going to keep doing it. We got a good system here. It works. That's why we're the number one most viewed, most listened to, voice in the space.
My question is, I'm wondering, it seems like Alvin Kamara in Kellen Moore's offense is not meshing 100%, and I just don't know if Kellen Moore is kind of harkening back to the Pete Carmichael style of, and I hate to say it because Kellen's such an offensive genius, but like the Pete Carmichael style of just run it up the gut, inside run game, and Alvin thrives so much in the outside run game and the passing game. A lot of what Kubiak was doing with him seemed to be just right in his wheelhouse. And I wonder, is it a flaw of Kellen Moore's, the fact that he's not getting that outside run game going? Is it just, maybe he has a hard stance on this is how his system works? Anyways, would love to hear you talk about the run game, because it seems like the run game wants to be a big part of his offense, but the way he's utilizing Alvin is just like not working at all, and he may be unwilling to adjust there, or I don't know. Love the podcast, love the videos. Have a good day, man. Later.
Matt, great call. Thank you so much for the call. Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff at play here. Like a lot of different times a player may not fit a scheme, and sometimes a scheme doesn't fit a team, and vice versa. And sometimes it's just a feeling out period of a coach getting the players he wants, or players getting used to a system. And, so I really don't know the answer. I don't know if it's that, Kellen is... What would be hard for me to believe, I guess, is that Kellen is taking Kamara and just, banging his head against the wall and saying, you know what, this isn't the best for you. This isn't the best situation for you. This isn't the best whatever, but I'm gonna keep making you do it. And Kellen just seems like he's smart enough, and he's been around enough teams and enough different players and enough different rosters or whatever, where you would think he would just get Alvin in whatever the best spot is for him, right? So, but I say all that to say that coaches do, have a system and have a scheme, and they do stick to it. So I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. They may just still be feeling out each other and feeling out what's best. I don't think it's a situation where this is just what it's going to be, So I'd wait and see. If Alvin is just a complete non-factor for the entire season, I think we'll have a bit of a better grasp of why. But as of right now, I think give it a little bit of time. The one thing that is apparent is that the screen The running back usage like that out of the backfield, like in the passing game, that has not been a thing. And I don't know if that is going to be a thing because Kellen just doesn't seem to call those kind of plays. So that's something that I've noticed that's definitely different. But yeah, I mean, he's got to figure out a way. Like, that's part of being a good coach too. Part of being a good coach is figuring out, all right, how do I get these players to do what's best for them? How do I get these players to succeed? What do I need to do to get them to succeed? And that goes for every player. I mean, that goes for offensive linemen, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, whatever. A bad coach puts players in positions that doesn't suit them and doesn't work for them. So, but great call. We'll see. Yeah, something to monitor for sure. But hopefully Alvin can get on track. All right, Matt, great job. Next up, Saints fan LOL is the name. I didn't add the LOL. That's just.
Hey James, I've been watching you for quite some time now. I was wondering if I'm wrong in wanting the owner to be more emotionally invested in the team. Perhaps off-season changes are coming, but I need someone who's just more aggressive and demanding of wins and greatness. You know what I mean? Even though it doesn't happen in this immediate season, I want to see more fight and more grit and more, want to from the players and coaches and staff in general. I feel like the players want to win, but there's a cutoff somewhere, and that seems to be the issue with this team. Like, at a certain point, that firepower dies off. And Mickey said he wanted the team to be great from top down, but maybe we aren't good enough right now. But when are they going to bring those people who are having that firepower and want to from the top down? You know what I mean? And maybe Mickey needs to look into other options in terms of his role as a VP and GM. But that's all. Like, I feel like every buy-in needs to come in from the top down, and that's only when we can see these changes. Otherwise, there's gonna be a lot of missed calls and close games and penalties and misplays and all these things week to week to week. Even if they want to win, I feel like there's just something else that's stopping the progress, and something or someone or an entity that just needs to believe in this team again. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to start the beginning over. Okay, did you say owner?
Hey James, I've been watching you for quite some time now. I was wondering if I'm wrong in wanting the owner to be more.
Okay, yeah. So I don't the owner. I don't think owners should be involved at all in like the day to day. The owner is exactly what it is. The owner is the owner of the team, and that should be it. The owner should not be, vocal, or at least like in the media or in the public or whatever. They shouldn't be, unless it's like, I mean, in the old days, I guess it was different, but now like an owner shouldn't be making personnel decisions and roster decisions, and sometimes that's how you can get misaligned. I mean, I know Carolina, when they took Bryce Young, there was conversation. I think Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud, but Tepper basically forced the hand to take Bryce Young. We've heard that before. I heard that with Al Davis with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin wanted to draft Calvin Johnson, and Al Davis wanted to draft Jamarcus Russell, and kind of forced his hand there. So the owner, I don't care what Gail does. Like, I don't think Gail needs to do, I don't want to see Gail doing podcasts or radio shows or whatever and all that stuff. Just all you can ask for from an owner is they give the resources to the team and the community. That's about it. That's all you can ask for from an owner. Now, as far as everyone else, everyone wants to win, right? Like, every single person in the NFL or in sports wants to win. Players, coaches, front office, whatever. There is a disconnect, I think, with the timeline of like a front office and the fan base, not just with the Saints, but just like with everybody, because the fans, are in this season, and the fans are thinking, we have to win right now. We have to win every single week. If we don't win, it ruins my week. It's whatever. The front office, I think, looks at it a little different. I think they look at it as this organism, this like organic thing that's living and breathing, and it's not just week to week, it's year to year. It's there's a lot more to it. So it may seem like a front office is complacent when they're not fire selling, or when they're not trading everyone or cutting everyone or whatever. It may seem like they're not doing anything. They don't care, right? The fire is not there. But in reality, I think they just know what it is. And they know this is a long process. And I've talked about this in a couple of videos this week, but sometimes the only thing to do is nothing. And sometimes the only thing you can really do is sit back and wait. And, the answer isn't bench Chris Olave and bench Juwan Johnson, or cut Juwan Johnson, or cut Chris Olave, or bench blank player, or fire coach. Sometimes it's just, all right, this is what it is. And now we wait, right? Like, it is what it is. Now we wait. And now we see what happens, and we move on in the draft, and we move on to next year. So I don't think, I don't think there's like a glaring need for more fire or passion or want or anything like that from the coaches, ownership, or players. I think sometimes it just kind of is what it is. But I totally get it. I totally get where fans want things to happen. I've also used this example or metaphor, but sometimes it's like an Etch-a-Sketch where you shake up the screen just because you want to see something else. Nothing's wrong with it. You just want to do something, right? You just want to shake the screen, get a new picture, whatever, because you're tired of looking at it. That's how fans feel sometimes. They're tired of looking at it. They're tired of looking at whatever picture, and they just want to shake it up. All right, next up, Ryan Arthur.
Hey, James, big fan of the face of the franchise
Thank
here.
you.
Relatively new watcher, actually, just been watching since April, but I catch pretty much every video of yours. Quick question. I wonder if Spencer Rattler was our first-round pick last year, hyped-up rookie, and he had played the exact same level that he has played so far, what would we be saying? How much has the conversation changed by the fact that he's a fifth rounder, relatively unhyped, and people didn't expect him to be starting? Thanks.
Fantastic question. That's a fantastic question, and it's a hell of a topic, because the answer is, if Spencer Rattler was, if Cam Ward was playing like Spencer Rattler, the Tennessee Titans would think they have a franchise quarterback. The ADP, the average draft position, or just the draft position of players, absolutely does go into the conversation early on, 100%. And it takes a while for that to fade off, if it ever fades off. I mean, Brock Purdy is still dealing with people who are like, I don't know. I mean, is he really going to last? Is this really going to hold up? Because he was he was as late of a draft pick as you can possibly get. And then flip it around. If you are a high draft pick, Bryce Young, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, you will get a ton of leeway. You will get a ton of opportunity, a ton of time, a ton of chances to figure it out. Because people think, all right, well, he's a first-round pick. He's got the talent, right? He obviously has the skill set. He obviously has this. He was drafted this high. They almost assume there's like a inherent amount of value just because they're a high pick. Whereas a late-round pick, they think, okay, well, he must be less talented if he is a late-round pick, even though we know that you can be a late-round pick and still be uber talented at every position. I mean, whether it's wide receiver or running back or quarterback or whatever, after a certain point, there's not really a correlation between where you're drafted and your success. At a certain point, it's just, all right, you're in the NFL, you've been in the NFL, now you got to prove it. With Rattler specifically, I mean, I think what I always point to with Rattler is that, he was the fifth round pick, but he was the seventh quarterback taken, and 6 were taken in the first round. So Rattler was taken positionally the pick after Bo Nix, but he was taken 5 rounds after Bo Nix. So is he actually 5 rounds different than Bo Nix and talent and ability and all that stuff? Probably not. all, draft position. A lot of stuff can happen with like what teams need, what they're looking for. And if 6 teams take quarterbacks in the first round, and then you assume there's a bunch of other teams that just don't need quarterbacks, just aren't going to draft quarterbacks, it leaves a very few amount of teams that would actually draft somebody. And that's how players slide, right? So here's the facts. If Rattler was a first or second round pick, it would be much more positive than it is right now, because that inherent value or whatever, people would be like, he's got something where he's developing, he's growing, we can see it, he's getting better. But because he's a 5th rounder, it's not the case. If Tyler Shuck was playing like Spencer Rattler, if Tyler Shuck comes in and plays like Spencer Rattler, people are going to feel much better about that because Tyler Shuck's the 40th overall pick. And it is weird. It is a weird psychology thing. It is a weird human, like a human element to the whole thing. But yeah, there's no doubt about it that the conversation is different because Rattler's a 5th rounder versus a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd rounder. 100%. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about it. Great call, Ryan. Fantastic. I mean, those are like, that's a good way of thinking about stuff. You say you've been watching the channel since April, and I can tell, because that's a very thoughtful, that's a great question to ask. All right. Super Saints is up next.
What's up, Jans?
What's up, man?
It's good to speak to you, man. Definitely a fan of the videos. Been watching for like 3 years, bro.
Woo.
But you always give a different perspective that I really enjoy, and it kind of gets me thinking sometimes. So keep it.
Hey, there you go. I appreciate that,
man. But I had a quick.
Yeah, I mean, we just try and view things as they are. Like, that's the main thing. We're not. A lot of people say, like, well, you're positive. I'm really not, like, overly positive. I'm just calling it like I see it. If anything, the only thing we aren't is overly emotional. And I think when you remove the overly emotional side of things, that allows you to kind of just look at things for what it is. And you can look at things for what it is and get a better example or a better idea of like the analysis and all of that. And you can find a little bit of context and all that in the games. But yeah, I appreciate it. And then, with that, I think we do end up like kind of bucking the trend a lot of the times, because most of the other channels are overly emotional and they're coming at it from kind of like a fan side of things or whatever. And but yeah, I appreciate that.
Quick question. The Kendra Miller injury, it freaking sucks, man, because Kendra was on the track to do something really, really good this year.
Yeah.
I was assuming, but it sucks that it happened to him. But I was wondering what your thoughts were on him in a contract situation. Do you think that, with him having this type of injury history, do we just close the book on him? I know it's a new coaching staff and, he showed some really good potential this year. I'd hate to close the book on him, but it kind of would make sense if they did, you know what I mean? So just wanted to see if I get your opinion on it. Thanks, man. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, injuries are very, very, it's a big time gray area for sure. And certain injuries more so than others. ACL with a running back is one of the big ones where you just don't know what they're going to be like when they return. And you just don't know how long it's going to take for them to return. Sometimes it takes like 2 years. Like we've seen some players like Javonte Williams who, when they return from their injury, it's like, okay. But you can tell they're trying to get back. And then the following year, like the year after is usually when a player is pretty close to what they're going to be. Kendra, it's just a long time. And especially if Alvin is, kind of getting to where he's not at the peak of his powers and the team has to figure out what they're going to do next. We'll see how Devin Neal plays this week and moving forward. But if the Saints have to get a running back in the room and they have to figure out where they're going next, that they can't really afford to just say, well, Kendra Miller will come back and we'll see how he'll be fine and he'll just be the guy. You can't assume that after an ACL injury like this. So I don't think you just release him. I don't think you just say, hey man, it is what it is. See ya. But I think you also had to protect yourself as a team, and you probably do have to kind of plan for a backup, or plan for a different, not even a backup, but just a different route. And if Kendra comes back and he's good and he's fine and he's firing off in training camp and he looks like he didn't miss a beat, then no harm, no foul. But you just never know. So it's kind of a wait and see game. And the roster is there's so much turnover with this roster right now. Like, there's so much happening. You really can't afford to wait and see. So I don't think they'll just flat out release him while he's in the middle of surgery. But he's got some hurdles to get over for sure to get back to what he was doing before the injury. Rat Dat quarterback 1 is up next.
Hey, James. Huge fan.
Thank you.
I've watched football my whole life. Never really athletic. So I was in the band. And so, football has always really meant a lot to me. And I've never really had quite the understanding of, how everything worked or whatever. And after I stumbled upon a couple of your videos, it got me more interested in something I already loved. So I kind of took some time, and I'm a much better fan after finding your channel.
I really appreciate that. When I was growing up, I was a huge football fan early on. I was a huge football fan from the very beginning. And I've told this story before, but a lot of people get your fanhood usually from your family, like your dad or your brothers or whatever. Well, my dad was big into sports betting. So he was interested in a bunch of different teams. And I would root for the Detroit Lions one night. I would root for the Saints one night. I would root against the Saints one night. I would root for the Buccaneers. I'd root for whoever. Whoever was being bet on, we were watching and we were rooting for. And that eliminated a lot of the just outright, no matter what, I'm rooting for this team, whatever. And I kind of had to understand the game a little bit more. I had to understand, not just from the sports betting side of things, but I had to understand just the game as it was versus just blindly watching and rooting for a specific jersey or color or whatever every single week. It was ever changing, so I had to learn different players. I had to learn different team strengths, what they're good at, what they're bad at, whatever. Well, as I got older, I wanted to be a coach. Back then I was like, well, I'll just be a coach. And I remember Charlie Weiss was the offensive god when I was in high school and kind of getting into the next level. And Charlie Weiss didn't have any football playing experience, and I thought that was so cool that a guy who never played the game, all of a sudden, just because he understood the game and just because he was looking at it through a different lens and he could figure out all the stuff and whatever. And so then that's when it really opened my eyes. Okay, you don't have to be in the huddle. You don't have to play to understand the game. If you just watch and research and, whatever. And something I always think about is if you had to have heart surgery or knee surgery or something, and you went to the greatest knee surgeon or heart surgeon in the world, you wouldn't be like, hey, have you had this surgery? You wouldn't care about that, right? It wouldn't matter if that surgeon had gone through it himself and actually had been through the surgery or whatever. You would just be like, yeah, he researched it, he studied it, he went to school for it, he understands it. That's good enough for me. And that's how I look at sports. Just because a player played doesn't mean they necessarily understand the game and can coach it or be a GM or just talk about it or give good analysis. And we see that on ESPN or some of these big shows all the time, where the dumbest possible takes come from former players. And a lot of the times because players just play. They don't watch the game. They don't understand. And it's not to say they can't. Obviously, there are great coaches and analysts or whatever who were former players. But, so Appreciate that.
Had a really good time all off season following you. This is the first time I've ever followed an NFL off season. Been a fan of the Saints since our boy Deuce McAllister was out there ripping it up.
Yep.
And not to make this too long, but I think my whole opinion on the Tyler Shuck Rattler thing is, first of all, it's kind of a pain in the butt right now because it is causing a divide in the fan base where if Shuck's never drafted, cool, we're just all team Rattler regardless. Like, it'd make it so much easier. And in my opinion, I really think that the only way Tyler Shuck gets on the field is if the coaching staff is confident he is better than Rattler. If he's not better, what is the point? Let him just sit there as QB2. Like, I mean, I just want your opinion on that because it makes more sense to me that you just leave it alone. Like, don't even worry about it. But as always, thanks for your time. Face of the franchise. Everybody out there, if this ends up on a video, like, subscribe.
There you go.
Share the video. We all know James does it the best.
True.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a headache just because the divide is crazy. I mean, it is a very unique thing, and it's something that you don't see a lot of. I mean, I can't. And I think what happened was, I mean, there was a lot that went into it, right? But I don't think the coaching staff ever planned on Tyler Shuck not playing. And when Rattler forced their hand, and, you know, the team knows, like, that's another part of this too, where the team knows who's better. The team knows who should be the starter. And whatever happened in the offseason happened in the offseason, and Rattler had to start. Well, then, what they also didn't expect was Rattler to be good, to be so good, to where he's putting up numbers, and he's kind of the engine of the team, and he's driving the team, whatever, and he's, you know. So you can't bench him, right, during that time frame. Now, we also don't know how ready Tyler Shuck is. We also don't know any of that stuff. So that all has to be, you know, factored in as well. Tyler Shuck could just not be ready. And the coaches could possibly not be thinking about this at all, right? They could be thinking, well, he's not ready, so it's a moot point. But I do think at some point, and I've said many times, I think it's the Atlanta game after the bye, at some point they probably do need to see him. At some point they do need to see Tyler Shuck. Because Rattler, I mean, the team is, at that point, who knows? It could be 1 win, 2 win, 3, whatever. Who knows? Probably 1 or 2 wins. We play Tampa this week. We play the Rams. You know, like, Carolina's a toss-up, but could be a 1-2 win team. You probably have to see him because you did take him 40th overall. At some point, you got to do something, right? Even if you don't see him this year, then you're entering a quarterback competition in the offseason. And that's kind of weird too, right? It's kind of weird to let Rattler play the entire season and then, oh, all right, here comes another quarterback competition. So you might as well see Shuck at some point in game action this year and then go into the offseason and make your decision. Shuck might make the decision for you. He may be so bad that the quarterback competition is not a competition anymore, or he may be so good that the quarterback competition isn't a competition anymore. A possibility and a real, like, I don't know what would happen is if Shuck is just the same as Rattler. If they're the same, like if Shuck comes in against Atlanta and plays the rest of the season and it looks exactly like Rattler and it's just kind of the same thing, I don't know what they're going to do. Because then they're going to enter that second offseason in the exact same place with a quarterback competition. And I have never, ever seen a team have the same quarterback competition back-to-back years like that. And that's where we'd be. And that seems like it'd be less than ideal for the team and less than ideal for Rattler and Shuck to constantly be in these quarterback competitions. Because if you do enter that competition this upcoming offseason, and let's say Shuck wins it, and let's say Shuck's the starter next year and Rattler's the backup, well, what happens if Shuck gets off to a rough start? Immediately, the fan base is going to flip and say, play Rattler. And as long as you have those two in the position of 1A and 1B, as long as you have that happening, it's always going to be like that. There's always going to be a divide. So I don't know. I don't really know what they're going to do, but I do think they will play Shuck. I don't think that part. I don't think that part is the unknown. I would be surprised if they went the entire season without playing Shuck. Unless the only way they don't is if Rattler is just insane. If the Saints beat the Buccaneers and beat the Rams and all of a sudden they just kind of take off and all of a sudden they're this great team and they got everything figured out and you don't want to mess with it, whatever. But if things stay the same, I think Shuck plays, and I think you kind of have to. But I'm more interested in what happens this offseason than what happens during the season, because I just can't imagine you go into the offseason with this quarterback competition. All right. Lil Dooms J.E. is up next.
Yo, James, just wanted your opinion on something real quick,
sure.
Man.
You came to the right place.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm going to try to keep my thoughts from being all over the place. But basically, it's about Spencer Rattler, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
We all familiar with his college career, his college come up.
Yeah.
Path to the NFL, right? The whole Caleb Williams deal. Feel like he didn't have the luckiest breaks there as far as like when you building a resume, like going into the draft, which is why he slipped so far, I think, just because he had that weird college situation. Then he get to the NFL, he start 0-10, and I feel like most people, unless you like a real Saints fan, you don't really have the context that he out there with people we signed 4 days prior.
Yeah, he had a really weird, especially the first 6 games. Last year was as bad of a situation as any quarterback could possibly be in. You have a defensive head coach who gets fired. Now you have an interim head coach. You have a first-year offensive coordinator. So the entire team is learning a new offense. You have your entire offense is hurt. Running backs, wide receivers, offensive line, tight ends. It is just Spencer Rattler. Remember, Spencer Rattler led the team in rushing, I think 3 of his starts, because Jordan Mims and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was his running backs, and the offensive line were a bunch of free agents. He was throwing to non-NFL players. I mean, bottom line, he was throwing to practice squad level players and /or rookies in Mason Tipton and Bub Means. I mean, it really was insane what he got thrown into. Then you get this year where he's entered into a quarterback competition. He has to learn a new system with Kellen Moore, and now he's playing in this one, which is definitely a better situation, and he's playing much better. And I don't think that's a quinky-dink. I don't think it's a quinky-dink that he's playing much better this year with Kellen than last year with the complete insanity that was going on.
Like he was meeting his offensive line for the first time.
Yeah.
Before that Packers game last year. You know what I mean? Like they don't really have the context of that.
Well, not only that, but the offensive line also, they don't know anything, right? Like, yeah, they're meeting Spencer Rattler for the first time, but they're also meeting each other for the first time. They're also getting the playbook like a week before the game. They're not even really sure what plays are being run, what the cadence is, the call outs, any of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was just an insane situation.
And the reason why I'm saying all that is, like, I feel like what's going to happen is if you look at the results of, like, if you just look at everything, like, on paper as, like, resume bullets, like, you start your career 0-10 or 0-11, whatever it was.
Yeah.
The team is 1-6 now. Like, it's hard to kind of make a point that the team can be successful with him. Now, my concern is, and the part that I wanted your opinion on is, like, I feel like when I look around at QBs in the league now, like, Spencer is legit to me somewhere in that 10 to 15 range currently.
Nah, he's that's high. That's high. I'd be comfortable with 20 to 25, 20 to 25, 20 to 30 if you wanted to like really expand it out, but 10 to 15 is high. I'm not going to lie. That's high up there. There's a lot of, good quarterbacks. So 10 to 15 is high, but I think 20 to 30 or 20 to 25, I think he could definitely slot in. He could definitely slot in there. But here's the deal too. Like there's some quarterbacks where, like Bryce Young, for example. I don't think Bryce Young's good at all. All right. But whether it's because of Bryce Young or not, the Panthers do have wins. The Panthers do have games where they've scored, 30 points. The Panthers do, Spencer needs some of that stuff to help his conversation because it is very difficult, like you kind of reference, it's very difficult to be like, yeah, I mean, Spencer Rattler's good. And it's like, okay, well, the team's 1-11. Is it Rattler's fault? No, but it's hard to say. It's hard to be like right now, this season. Let's just take this season by itself. It's like, no, I think Spencer's good. I agree. I think Spencer's good, but you also can't ignore the one win, and you can't ignore that we've scored more than 20 points. I think once, right? Like those things are real too. And whether it's a mismatch of drop passes and Kellen Moore calling play, Philly specials and Rattler and the defense, whatever the combination of stuff is, it's just difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow. It's a difficult thing to be like, it's hard to have full confidence in them when, like, if we were scoring 40-something points a game or 30-something points a game and losing, you could say Spencer Rattler's good, but the defense gave up this many points, or we had this drop, or this, and people would be like, okay, yeah, because I'm seeing the offense is good, even though we're losing. But when we're only scoring 14, 13, 15, 16 points a game and losing, then it's hard to be like, hey, man, the offense is good, I swear.
And I think if he had a shot around a semi-competent team, he could probably be higher. And he could probably start creeping in the same conversations with some of these bigger name quarterbacks that we might deem as elite. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that he is, but I feel like he got the potential if he was given a fair chance. My concern is that, the powers that be, front office, they'll look at the record for the start. They'll look at the success of this past season, which is not much. Like we currently sitting at 1-6. And even if he do get the chance next year too, like if we still give him room for next season, the odds of us making some crazy jump from this 1-6 product that we're looking at now to some good team that's in the running is slim. Not impossible, but very unlikely. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's gonna take at least 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Like, do you think that our front office is competent enough to kind of identify some of that? You know what I mean? Because I feel like, I don't know, most NFL teams are not. Like I feel like you just kind of look at what's happening, you look at the hard facts on paper, and you make a decision. And usually it's the coach and quarterback that'll take the brunt of the blame. But I really do feel like if we was to move off Spencer or not give him a real shot with a real team and offense around him, you just never gonna know. And I feel like, me personally, and I know this might be a reach, but I feel like we sitting on somebody who could potentially be in that elite level, like top 5 level. You know what I mean? Do you have faith that the Saints will do the right thing? That's my question, man.
Top 5 is a lot. I mean, you got to be good. You got to be average before you're good. You got to be good before you're great. You got to be great before you're elite. Like, I mean, you look at someone like C.J. Stroud, who the year he had his rookie season, and yeah, his offensive line's bad, whatever, but he's not elite. He's not top 5. he's not even really in that conversation right now. So Rattler has a long way to go before he's in that conversation of like good, great, elite, whatever, top five, however you want to phrase it. What Rattler has to do to help his case is he's got to start, this offense has to start just being viable. The offense has to start being good. And again, that might be the fault of Kellen Moore. That might be the fault of Chris Olave. That might be the fault of Alvin Kamara. That might be the fault of Juwan Johnson. Whatever it is, but at a certain point, they have to exist. Like, they have to be good. They have to start scoring points. You know, you can't have the lowest points per game in the league. You can't have the worst record in the league. You can't have all this stuff and then say, don't worry about it. It's a good offense or it's a good quarterback play or whatever. You know, there's got to be something there. There's got to be, he needs to do something to give his like argument some credence. He's got to do something to make people sit and listen and say, okay, all right, I see it. But, you know, you can only pull up like PFF grades so much. You can only pull up some of that stuff so much before you just look at like points per game and you look at yards per play and you look at how much we're leading and you look at our first quarter success and all that. And it ain't pretty. Like, those aren't pretty at all. And, you know, so has Spencer been dealt kind of a less than ideal hand? Yeah, sure. No doubt about it. But he's got to help himself a little bit too, or just the offense as a whole has to help itself before, you know, the front office and the coaches will be forced to make a switch and try different stuff out. As far as like the front office, like being like boosting the roster or whatever, this draft class looks pretty good. So, you know, you got to remember too, like Kellen and Brandon Staley or whoever, they're having a lot of say in the kind of players they want to go get. And this draft class looks good. It looks like they've identified kind of their style of player. So we'll see how it plays out. It's only been, you know, 7 games, but we'll see how it plays out. But if they keep getting players like this, I feel pretty good about the talent level of the roster being raised. All right, next up, Lou. Oh, Lou.
Hey, James. Appreciate your content. Appreciate you for being the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
My question to you is, what is the difference between Aaron Glenn and Kellen Moore? I've heard your stance on Aaron Glenn. I heard your stance on Kellen Moore. And the difference between the Saints and the Jets right now is 1 win. But if Kellen Moore was 0-7, would you feel the same way about Kellen Moore that you do Aaron Glenn? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't really care about the wins and losses at all, and I don't factor that in at all when I talk about Aaron Glenn and Kellen Moore. So the first thing I want to see a head coach be able to do is just the job, right? They got to be able to do the job of head coach. Can they handle things like press conferences? Can they handle things like the media? Can they handle the locker room? Can they handle the end-game situations? Can they handle whatever it is, field goals or timeouts or two-point conversions and all that stuff? And then there's kind of different subsets of that, right? So there's the complicated stuff where it's kind of 50-50. It's a bit, okay, what's your preference? Like, do you want to go for 2 here? Do you want to kick a field goal here? But it's not 100. It's not exact. Like, it's not an easy call. It's 55-45 one way or the other. It's right there. Like, one call is probably more optimal, but it's pretty close. Then there's some stuff that's just basic and like the easiest possible part of the job. Brian Callahan just got fired in Tennessee. Earlier this season, he admitted he didn't know what a catch was. He didn't understand the rule of a catch. That, to me, is like basic level understanding of the job. And if you don't know that, if you don't know what a catch is, how can I trust you to do anything else? Right? Like, I don't really care what your record is at that point. You can luck yourself into wins here and there, but that is crazy. Urban Meyer, when he was with the Jaguars, famously, he didn't fly back with the team. He flew separate and went and visited family, and the team flew back by themselves. To me, that is the basic level of doing the job. If you can't do that, you can't do the job, and you're not cut out to do the job. All right, Aaron Glenn, the debacle at the end of the half that we covered on the channel was basic. That was basic level. And he made like 6 basic level mistakes on the same drive, with the plays not making any sense as far as like running, letting the clock run, throwing, calling a timeout, whatever. Then to let the clock completely run instead of throwing a Hail Mary or instead of trying to throw the ball to get in field goal range or any of that stuff, disaster. Then when he was asked about the field goal and he couldn't remember the yardage and he was off by a ton of yardage. And then he mentioned that the target line was like the 35, which made no sense either. So the difference is that I think Aaron Glenn is just in over his head, and he just cannot do the basics part of the job. He cannot handle the press. He has been horrible with the media. Right now, he's refusing to name a starting quarterback. Like, he's been bad with the roster, and then the basics of the in-game stuff, he's just completely lost. So that's what I think the big difference is. Kellen, he 100% understands the job. I mean, you hear him talk. He understands exactly what's going on. He can recite plays. He can recite yardage. He's great with the media. He's great with the locker room. He's great with the roster. All that stuff. There have been some moments where it's like, I don't know if I probably would have called out timeout there. I probably would have gone for 2 there. I might have done this there. But again, those are kind of like those are the more of the preference things where one might be optimal, but it's not glaringly more optimal than some of the stuff. So I think Aaron and Kellen are completely different. And I think Aaron Glenn is closer to like Nathaniel Hackett, closer to Brian Callahan, closer to Urban Meyer. I think he's been a total disaster with the Jets. And I would not be surprised at all if he was fired before the end of the season. I think it's been really, really bad. Like Mike McDaniel is a good example. Mike McDaniel is going to get fired, but he can do the job. Like Mike McDaniel can absolutely manage the game. He can absolutely call the offense. He can absolutely do the job. He's just in a situation where the team's not good. He may have lost the locker room. Tua is Tua, and McDaniel's going to get fired. But he's not getting fired for the same reason that Brian Callahan's getting fired. Brian Callahan got fired because he could not do the job, and the team was bad. So, yeah, I don't really factor in wins and all that stuff. Especially for Aaron and Kellen, who they're 7 weeks in. Like, I don't really factor in wins and losses at that point. If you look at Kellen, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, I think they're all they've passed that first test as rookie head coaches of guys who at least understand the job. They at least understand what they should be doing as far as the job and how they should be, approaching it and all that stuff. So, all right, there you go. Thank you. All right, that's all the calls. Thank you very much, everybody, for calling in. I got to try and do this frequently so I can keep up, so I can, so I don't mess up and get behind. Because the worst thing that can happen, I get 20 calls or whatever, and then it takes 2 hours to do and all that stuff. So I'm trying to knock these out. All right, if you want to send a message, speakpipe.com. The link is in the description. It's the easiest thing in the world. You can do it on the phone. You can do it on the computer. Very, very easy. And then if you want some merch, get on over to the store. What are you doing? Look how packed this store is. 3 different hats with 6 different color combinations. You got all the shirts, the JLS shirts, the Skrmetta Face of the Franchise shirts, the Dome Dog shirts, the Boiling Hot Sports Talk shirts, and then the mug. Can you believe it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.